Guys, while we wait the highly anticipated US-Ukraine deal this Friday between Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky and US President Donald Trump this Friday, let's watch muna an in-depth interview with US Senator or US State Secretary ba yun? Marco Rubio. So sa Fox
Well,
Time
this is
manonood.
news. Ukrainian President Zelensky is expected to meet with our President Donald Trump on Friday after he reportedly has agreed to terms of a major mineral deal with the United States.
Meanwhile, I had the chance to sit down for an exclusive sit down with Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Yes, we did walk. And here's what he told me about all this. Mr. Secretary, first off, congratulations, 99 votes.
So guys, ayun pala guys, whenever you are being elected as a state secretary dito sa US, you need magbobotohan yan. So let's see, ChatGTP tayo, ChatGTP search. So 99 votes daw si Marco Rubio to become a state secretary in the US. The nominee must confirm by the Senate. This requires a majority vote. The Senate has 100 members, so a majority vote would typically require at least 51 votes in favor of the nominee. So, yun. So, ang requirement lang is 51, pero based dito sa interview, naka 99 siya. So, ibig sabihin, sobrang popular nito ni Marco Rubio. Tuloy
I
natin.
guess everyone is behind you. How does it feel 30 plus days in?
Busy. We've been busy. We've been a lot of work. We're doing the work of diplomacy in the State Department. A lot of, this President Trump is not a patient man. He moves very quickly. He's been given a mandate, and he hit the ground running from day one.
One thing he said he wanted to do is address the Ukraine-Russia war quickly. It looks like the mineral deal has been done. Can you confirm that?
Well, I can't confirm it. Obviously, our Secretary of Treasury.
So guys, yung mineral deal, last time yan yung kinover natin. So, di ba, last video, we learned that Ukraine has a lot of minerals. Actually, minerals, rare earth metals, oil and gas. Tapos, sama pa dyan yung mga access ng US sa mga ports ng Ukraine.
Besant is working on that, has done a great job of putting that together. So my last indication was that it was very close to the finish line. We were on not even the 1 yard line. We were like at the half-yard line, almost like when the Eagles push the quarterback across, that tush-push thing. So it's close and it's good. Look, it's a good deal. It's an important deal. We still want to end this war. I mean, that's the important thing the president's made very clear. He campaigned on that.
President Zelensky and the president clashed last week. There's no doubt about it. This week is going to be different. It looks like that President Zelensky is going to be here in Washington this week. How much friction
Guys, bukas na yan. Kasi ngayon Thursday eh. So bukas na to, yung Friday.
is between President Zelensky and President Trump?
I don't, there's a lot of stuff in the media about it, but in the end of the day, the president's objective is clear. He wants the war to stop. And to do that, you have to have both sides agree to it, right? Now, we talked to Zelensky. I think what the president was irritated by, and rightfully so, was this argument that somehow we haven't talked to Ukraine. After President Trump spoke to Putin, which he hadn't spoken to in 4 years, he picked up the phone. I was there for both calls. He immediately called Zelensky right away. And then Zelensky met with our Treasury Secretary. And then he met with me and the Vice President. And then he met with Kellogg. And then, so he has had engagements, constant engagements.
So guys, bali tatlong beses na pala nakipag-engage ang US to Ukrainians.
I've talked to the foreign minister of Ukraine twice in the last 6 days. So to say that we're not engaged with them is just not accurate.
What makes you believe that the Russians sincerely want to have this war to end?
I don't know. I don't know the answer
What
to
do you
that.
think?
Well, I think we're going to test it. We told them, do you guys want to end the war or do you want to continue? If you want to end the war, we can talk about what it would take to end it from their perspective. If you want to continue on the war, just tell us now. And they agreed to a follow.
Grabe naman to si Marco Rubio, very straightforward. Totoo ba yan?
Up where we're going to send, teams of diplomats to meet with theirs to sort of talk about what it would take to end the war. If what they insist on is unrealistic, then we know they're not real about it. But we have to test that process.
Guys, usually si Putin kasi is requesting very unrealistic demands. Usually.
Opposition. We need to know, and the president wants to know early in his presidency, are the Russians interested in ending this war, or are they not?
Germany had a big election. President Trump congratulated the new presumed leader, although it's going to take
Guys, ito nga pala si Friedrich Merz. So last time kinover din natin to. Ito nga pala yung parang Trump-like version ng Germany.
Months for them to form a government. His name is Friedrich Merz. And he said this, I would never have thought I would be saying this on TV.
Very illegal immigrants din to.
But after Donald Trump's remark last week, it is clear that the government does not care much about the fate of Europe. My absolute priority will be to strengthen Europe as quickly as possible so that step by step we can really achieve independence from the U.S. He says NATO in its current form is in jeopardy, and it's time for the European nations may have to establish an independent European defense capability. Your reaction?
My reaction is NATO is not in jeopardy. The only thing that puts NATO in jeopardy is the fact that we have NATO. The only thing that puts NATO in jeopardy is the fact that we have NATO allies who barely have militaries or whose militaries are not very capable because they've spent 40 years not spending any money on it. We've been NATO. And all President Trump has argued is what every president, every American president has argued for the last 30 years, and that is these are rich countries, especially in Western Europe.
Guys, sa Western Europe, nandyan yung mga France, Germany, Great Britain, United Kingdom, Spain. So actually lahat sila mayayaman, no?
Have plenty of money. They should be investing that in their national security, and they're not. You have countries spending 1.5%, 1% of their economy, and we just can't keep subsidizing that. It's not fair and it's not sustainable.
He thinks that the U.S. wants out of Europe, do your own thing. Is he misreading Donald Trump?
No, we're not saying do your own thing. We're saying do more. It's their continent, right? Why should we not be? Why is it unreasonable for the United States to ask rich European countries to invest more money in their own national security?
What a start you've had. 30 plus days. You've been to Panama, El Salvador, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Dominican Republic, Germany, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and UAE.
Guys, totoo ba to? Totoo ba to? Sobrang busy naman ni Marco Rubio.
In the beginning, you got 6 nations there, Central and South America. There's a message, and it seems to have been our border matters. Let's establish some relationship because we got to get control of our southern border, and you got to control of yours. What did you walk away with? What was your message?
Well, we walked away from the following: that all those countries you mentioned in Central America are all migratory routes. That is the route that people take to get to the southern border. So our border, in many cases, when it comes to mass migration, begins there. So we want countries to cooperate in stopping it. In addition, a number of these countries, I add Honduras now to the list, a number of these countries have now agreed not just to take back repatriation flights of their own nationals, but to take third country, meaning people from other countries who basically enter the United States illegally. We can send them to those countries, and they have a choice. They can go back to their home.
Wow, if they can do that, it is going to be a very smooth process sa pagde-deport ng mga illegal immigrants in the USA, no?
Country, or they can go to these countries. These are powerful tools, and that's why you're now seeing historically low numbers under President Trump.
Do you think
historically
it has a lot
low
to do
numbers
with
at the border?
your visits?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with President Trump. It has to do with the fact that people that were coming here realized that this isn't Joe Biden. Under President Trump, you're not just going to be able to come in, claim asylum, and stay forever. And so we are literally, in some of these countries, I had a call yesterday, one of these countries, they now have people doing U-turns, right? They were on their way here, they realized, okay, they're not playing around anymore. President Trump is serious, and they've done a U-turn. They're trying to go back to their country. Right. We're seeing that happen. And that is as a result of President Trump's very clear leadership on migration.
Have we allowed, over decades, China to make their way into Central?
Guys, ito very sensitive topic to China. Direct natin na. Marco Rubio will be answering direct questions, sensitive questions regarding China.
South America, and is Panama an example of that?
Yes.
We've just not put enough attention in our own backyard.
Well,
is that what you heard when you went there?
It is. I mean, a couple things. They're corruption, right? The previous president, 2 presidents ago, those people are all wrapped up in a web of corruption. In fact, he's standing trial in Panama now for that. So they bought their way like they've done in many parts. And you wake up one day and realize they control both of the ports of entry to the Panama Canal. They control the cranes. They have a huge presence there. And I'm very happy that after our visit, I think the same day I was there, Panama became the first country in Latin America, in the Western Hemisphere, to get out of the Belt and Road Initiative. And I think there'll be more news coming up soon with regards to Panama, all positive for America.
Guys, yung Belt and Road Initiative, so Google search natin to. Okay. So ChatGTP. So China's Belt and Road Belt and Road Initiative is a global development strategy launched by China in 2013 under President Xi Jinping. The initiative aims to enhance trade, infrastructure, and economic growth by creating a vast network of land and sea routes that connect China to other regions, particularly Asia, Europe, Africa, and beyond. Wow. Wow.
America
You've called China the most dangerous near-peer adversary the U.S. has faced.
ever.
Wow, guys, yung tanong the question is very fierce.
Uh,
Ano guys, very strong and assertive yung mga questions nitong nag-interview.
So we need concrete steps to face off with them, who
Yeah.
clearly are building up their military to face off with us,
Yes.
as sophisticated as possible. What is your plan? And they have told us by 2027 they're taking Taiwan.
Well, there's-
Daily incursions. What could you do about it? How committed is you and the President of the United States to defending Taiwan?
There's three things we have to do when it comes to look. China's going to be a rich and powerful country. No matter what we do, that's what we're going to have to deal with that. But we have to deal with the reality. What we cannot have is a world where China is so powerful we depend on them, and that's right now where we're headed. Unfortunately, that's going to change. It's going to change under President Trump. Number one is we have to have our own domestic capability. If you don't want to depend on China, you better be able to make it for yourself. And we've allowed way too many industries to fall into the hands of the Chinese. Everything from rare earth minerals to pharmaceuticals. We have to have a domestic capacity, and it's one of the ideas behind the tariffs that the president is pursuing writ large. That's why people say, well, only put tariffs on China. Well, that's not enough, because China has factories in other countries all over the world, and they flood us with those products. So we have to have our own domestic capacity. Number two is we have to be present. In the Indo-Pacific, they're trying to drive us out. We have a strong relationship. We are a Pacific nation. We are. And so we have relationships in the Pacific, and we're not going to abandon those. Japan, South Korea. You mentioned Taiwan. We have a long-standing position on Taiwan that we're not going to abandon, and that is we are against any forced, compelled, coercive change in the status of Taiwan. That's been our position since the late 1970s, and that continues to be our position, and that's not going to change. And then the third is, and it's outside the purview of this Department of State, but we have to have military capabilities that allow us to respond to the threat that China is posing, and we need to be concerned. We have our aircraft manufacturing, our ship manufacturers. They are not keeping pace. China can build 10 ships before we can build one. That's a very serious vulnerability that cannot continue, and obviously I know Pete has a plan for that, and the president has a plan for that, and they're working on it.
Guys, grabe, no? Marco Rubio, is this guy very good or what? Di ba? He is answering very sensitive foreign policy questions with direct and unwavering stand. So, grabe, no? Tapos wala pa siyang any materials. Talagang he is answering directly. Well, no paper to read or codico, no? He is addressing very complex and very sensitive issues.
Excellent interview, Brian. Marco
Very
Rubio was
excellent.
born
Grabe,
for that job.
nag-goosebumps
He's
na ako eh.
fantastic.
Yeah, he was.
Brian, you covered Russia, Ukraine, countries not spending enough on their own national security and relying on us. You talked about the border, the Panama Canal, China, and Taiwan. Very wide-ranging, and I learned a lot from it.
Thanks. I mean, Steve, you're absolutely right. That's just what he loves. This is what he loves. And when Donald Trump had his first term, Lawrence, you remember, he told Marco Rubio, you got Central and South America, you handle Cuba. And he totally trusted him with the Venezuela, the regime change that never quite worked out, but never acknowledged Maduro. Now, I do talk to about him. I don't know if it's going to make the cut about Maduro. Are you acknowledging?
Guys, Maduro. So, search natin si Maduro. So, ito pala. Who is Maduro? Maduro. Nicolas Maduro is the current president of Venezuela sa babato sa mga Central America. Having held the office since April 2013, so almost 10, 12 years? 12 years na pala siya. He was a former bus driver. Wow, bus driver? And a union leader before entering politics. Maduro serves as a vice president under Hugo Chavez. Okay, namatay. Maduro's leadership has been marked by economic struggles, including hyperinflation, widespread poverty, and shortage of basic goods. as well as political unrest. So ganito na lang guys. So medyo pangit din yung pamamalakad ni Maduro.
That Maduro's a legitimate leader, even though it's a scam election, and by getting our hostages out and letting them take their people back. And he said, no, it's a complicated situation. Put it this way. He knows he works for President Trump, but also President Trump likes that he's in charge.
Let me tell you, Brian, great job with the interview. I love the pairing of Secretary Rubio and Donald Trump. I've always said that Marco Rubio may be the best communicator from a communication standpoint, reaching people, knowing the message of the party in the Republican Party. But to pair the communication style of Marco Rubio with the policy agenda of Donald Trump, I think we're going to be able to achieve a lot of peace around the world, and I can't wait to see what's next.
And even though he has a hand in what's happening in all these countries, allowing us now to send illegals back to their countries, you asked him, you said, is this because of you? And he said it's because of Donald Trump and his policies.
You know, one other thing, you know who looks really bad in all this? The Biden team. Essentially,
they do.
After 3 years of war, Donald Trump and company really are wrapping it up in about 3 weeks.
So quickly.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So hats off to Marco Rubio and company over at Foggy Bottom.
Steve, you make an interesting point, because remember, the president said that he was going to get it done on day one. Of course, all the media outlets ran with that headline. But 1 day versus 3 weeks in the grand scheme of a war that's been over 3 years, I think the American people got the message.
It'll be incredible.
Guys, please stop the war. Please, Donald Trump, do your best.
If this war ends in the next few weeks.
A lot of moving parts. Don't get involved in the play-by-play. Let's look at the result. Meanwhile, we'll have more behind-the-scenes moments with the Secretary of State on the job just 40 days.